The publication by the U.S. Department of Justice of thousands of pages of documents related to the abuses committed by the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has disappointed those who had been eagerly awaiting their release. Under the law, the Department of Justice was required to make all materials public by the end of Friday. However, only part of the documents were released, many of which contain extensive redactions. Lawmakers who pushed for the disclosure of these documents described the Department of Justice's efforts as insincere, while some legal experts say the redactions could further fuel existing conspiracy theories. "We simply want all the evidence of these crimes to be made public," Epstein survivor Liz Stein told the BBC. Speaking on the Today program on BBC Radio 4, Ms. Stein said she believes the Department of Justice is blatantly violating the Epstein Transparency Act, a law that requires the release of all documents. According to experts, victims are deeply concerned about the possibility of a piecemeal release of incomplete information without any context. Marina Lacerda, who was 14 years old when she was abused by Epstein, also told the BBC that some survivors remain nervous and skeptical about how the remaining files will be released. "We are very concerned that they will continue to be redacted in the same way as today," she said. "We are somewhat disappointed that they have still not disappeared and are distracting us with other matters." Among the most recently released information are photographs of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently in prison near Downing Street, the office and residence of the UK Prime Minister. A document alleging that Epstein introduced a 14-year-old girl to U.S. President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and numerous photographs of former U.S. President Bill Clinton. Other released photographs show the interiors of Epstein's homes, his international travels, and images of celebrities, including Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, and Peter Mandelson, a former UK Labour Party politician and former U.S. ambassador. The presence of a name or image in these documents is not evidence of wrongdoing. Many individuals who appear in the documents or in previous Epstein-related disclosures have denied any illegal activity. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein and has not been accused of any crimes by Epstein's victims. Clinton has never been accused of wrongdoing by Epstein's victims and has denied having knowledge of Epstein's sexual crimes. At least 15 of the files released on Saturday were later removed from the Department of Justice website. According to CBS, the BBC's U.S. media partner, one of the missing files showed a stack of framed photographs on a desk. One photograph depicted Bill Clinton, another showed the Pope. An open drawer contained a photograph of Trump, Epstein, and Maxwell. Among the missing files were photographs of a room that appeared to contain a massage table, as well as photographs and artwork depicting nude bodies. It was unclear why the files became unavailable. In a post on X published Saturday evening, the Department of Justice wrote, "Photographs and other materials will continue to be reviewed and redacted in accordance with the law, out of an abundance of caution as additional information becomes available." The BBC has contacted the Department of Justice for comment. On Friday, the day the materials were released, U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the department had identified more than 1,200 Epstein victims or their relatives and had withheld materials that could identify them. However, many documents remain heavily redacted. The Department of Justice said it would comply with Congress's request for the documents, but with certain limitations. Removed materials include Epstein victims' personal information, materials depicting child sexual abuse, materials depicting physical violence, any records that could compromise an ongoing federal investigation, or any classified documents that must remain secret to protect national defense or foreign policy. The Department of Justice said it is not redacting the names of any politicians and added a quote attributed to Blanche. The only information being redacted from the documents is what is required by law, period. In accordance with the law and applicable regulations, we do not conceal the names of individuals or politicians unless they are victims. Criminal defense attorney John Day told the BBC he was surprised by the extent of the redactions. "If you're a conspiracy theorist, this just pours fuel on the fire," he said. "I don't think anyone expected this level of redaction. It certainly raises questions about how faithfully the Department of Justice is complying with the law." Mr. Day also noted that the Department of Justice is required to provide Congress with a list of classified materials within 15 days of releasing the files. "Until you know exactly what's classified, you don't know what's being hidden," he said. In a letter to judges overseeing the Epstein and Maxwell cases, Jay Clayton, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, said, "Advisors advocating for the protection of victims' privacy support redacting the faces of women in photographs with Epstein, even if not all of the women are known to be victims, because it's impractical for the department to identify every individual in a photograph." Clayton acknowledged that some may view this approach to photographs as excessive redaction, but he said the department believes it is appropriate to err on the side of redaction in a compressed time frame to protect victims. Baroness Helena Kennedy, a human rights lawyer and UK Labour peer in the House of Lords, said she had been told the redactions were made to protect victims. "Authorities are always afraid that disclosures could lead to further damage to public perception," she said on the BBC's Today program. According to experts, many Epstein survivors appear very eager for the materials to be released, but added that they might not be as keen if they knew exactly what was in them. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, who led the push to release the files alongside Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, said the disclosure was incomplete and added that he is considering options such as impeachment, contempt of court, or referring the matter to prosecutors. "Our law requires them to explain the redactions," he said. "There is no single explanation." Massie echoed Khanna's statement and wrote on social media that Attorney General Pam Bondi and other Department of Justice officials could be held accountable in the future for failing to comply with document requirements. He said the release grossly violates both the spirit and the letter of the Epstein Transparency Act. Following the publication, the White House described the Trump administration as the most transparent in history, adding that it had done more for victims than Democrats ever have. In an interview with ABC News, Blanche was asked if all documents mentioning Trump in the so-called Epstein files would be released in the coming weeks. "If it is consistent with the law, then yes," Blanche said. "So there is no attempt to hide anything because of the name Donald Trump or the name Bill Clinton or the name Reid Hoffman. There is no attempt to hold back or selectively release. We will not conceal the names of prominent men and women associated with Epstein."